Hi friends and families, this is Miss Sam from the Ashford Public Library Children's Room, and welcome to an NC Science Festival story time. This story time we're going to be looking at A la Luna y Más Allá, To the Moon and Back. It's Latin American sky stories. This is a booklet that you can download for yourself at moorheadplanetarium.org, and I'll be sure to provide the link down below in the description of this video. You can download this, print it out. It's got some wonderful origin stories from different parts of the world, different Latin American origin stories about the different shadows on the moon, about sky formations, and about the Milky Way. And we're actually going to read a few in this story time and create our very own felt board stories to go along with them. So our first story is called The Fox and the Mole. This is a story from Peru. So this is our mole. Here is a sly Mr. Fox. Here is the moon, a very helpful bird that's flying in the sky. And here are some pieces of grass and earth that the mole will be digging through. So now that we've set the stage, we're going to tell our story, The Fox and the Mole. Mole was digging for worms one day when the fox came by. "Mole," said Fox, "what do you want most in the world?" "Worms," said the mole. The mole likes to dig up worms in the earth. Fox said, "I want to go to the moon." "How?" said the mole. "The moon is so far away." The fox is very cunning. "I'll figure it out," the fox said, and he ran off through the grass, which gave him a very bright idea. "I know," said the fox. "We'll make a rope with the grass and a way to get to the moon." "And we'll both go," said the fox. And the mole said, "Both of us will go to the moon?" And the fox said, "Yes, of course, the moon has giant worms on it." I think the fox was telling a big fib to get the mole to go, don't you think? And Mole's stomach growled, so he agreed to go. The fox and the mole spent all day braiding the grass into a rope. It almost made it, or it looks like it almost made it. Mole said, "Let's ask the birds to carry our rope the rest of the way to the moon." The birds scooped up the rope onto their beaks, and they carried the rope high, high, high into the sky. And then once the birds returned, the fox began to climb the rope, paw over paw, eager to reach the moon. And the mole followed a little less eagerly to reach the moon. But the mole's claws slipped, and he started to fall, and he fell right onto the back of a bird, and the bird flew him all the way down to the earth. Phew, that was a close call, Mole. But all the creatures that were watching way down on the earth, they laughed at Mole. And then they said, "You fell on purpose so that you wouldn't get all the way to the moon." The mole was embarrassed, so he dug a deep tunnel and stayed there a very, very long time. And to this day, Mole prefers to come out only after dark, avoiding all the other creatures who made fun of him. And he'll never listen to that fox ever again. But what about Fox? Well, the fox made it to the moon. He made it to the moon, and the birds say that you can still see him in the full moon looking down on Earth. And sometimes, if you look at the moon, you can see the fox on the moon as well. And here's a picture of the fox on the moon from the booklet. And that's a Peruvian story describing some of the shadows that you can see on the moon and how they look like a fox. Well, it's because a fox made it all the way there. Our next story is a Bolivian story called Nuku the Worm. And we're going to get set up by putting some leaves and a river and a tiny little creature here. Nuku the Worm. Long ago, the sky was so close to the earth that sometimes it would crash into it and squash many people. It was not a good situation. And once in a Chamani village, an old woman lived alone, and no one helped her Chaco, her land for growing food, and she often went very hungry. Gurgle, gurgle, gurgle. Oh boy, I'm so hungry. And one day in her garden, while trying to collect yucca to eat, she saw something shining among the leaves. Do you see something shining among the leaves? It looked like a glowing worm. A glowing white worm. And she named it Nuku and put it in a jug to feed it. Here's Nuku in his jug. And she took care of Nuku like he was her son. She loved Nuku very much. But within a week, the worm had grown so big it filled the jug. And so the woman had to put him in a bigger jug, thinking it would suit him for a good long while. But a week later, Nuku had filled up the whole jug there too. Whew, he was getting big. Wow. Within another week, Nuku said, "Mother, I am far too big for this jug. I must go feed at the river. Mother, I'm going fishing." So he lay down across the river, and his body was so big that it dammed up the river, which meant it blocked all the flow of water all the way down. And the fish that were swimming jumped out onto the bank. And the woman gathered up the fish, yum, 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 yum. And from then on, she had plenty of food to eat. And people asked her in the village, "You were just starving last month. How are you getting all this fish? This is amazing." And she didn't answer, thinking it was her secret. And time passed. The other villagers became very hungry because Nuku was catching all of the fish. And one day he said, "Mother, invite the people to come here to fish." Very wise. And she did, and for a while everything went well for everyone. The villagers had food, the mother had food, but Nuku had grown so big that he could no longer fit in the river. He's huge. "Mother," he said, "I need to move on to take care of the sky so that it won't fall on the earth again. You won't go hungry because you have helped the people, and they will now in turn help you." Then Nuku stretched far across the sky, way, way, way high up, from one end to the other. The old woman was sad to lose her son, but she was comforted to see Nuku way up high in the sky. He had become the Milky Way, and he continues to shine to this day. So when you look up and you look through a telescope and you see the Milky Way, you're seeing the glowing worm Nuku. And that is an origin story from Bolivia about the Milky Way. Those are two of the stories included in To the Moon and Beyond. And again, you can download this storybook and have your own bilingual story times at home, all thanks to the NC Space Grant. Thank you so much for providing us with all these wonderful activities for NC SciFest. Be sure to log on to randolphlibrary.org. Under the children's section, you'll see a tab for the NC SciFest, and there are lots of activities to do this week, including our craft bags. You can visit us at the Asheboro Public Library and pick up a craft bag yourself, or you could schedule for curbside pickup or drive up anytime during our operating hours to pick up a craft bag this week. We've got all different kinds of science experiments, and we've made a video that's also on that website, randolphlibrary.org/children. And you'll be able to see those videos and do those crafts at home. If you don't get a craft bag, there are still lots of awesome activities and experiments that you can do. We hope that you have a wonderful science-filled week, and thank you so much for joining me for Storytime. Have a great day.